like it.
All right.
Imagine this is going to be about a half an hour.
Yeah.
That works.
That's fine.
All right. And we're live.
We're live on YouTube. And then as soon as we're live on X, I'll kick it off. All right. So we are live with Benjamin Diggles, Ken Spaden of University of Chaminade. And today there was actually some breaking news. So Chaminade University partnered with Constellation to explore and expand this Datapreneurship program. And this isn't actually new. They've actually been doing this since the summer of last year. And here is the announcement of last year. Here's Benjamin Diggles giving over his presentation about exploring the Datapreneurship program and Web3. And in this first cohort, there was actually some pretty exciting use cases that these students came up with. And so, you know, when we talk about like when government is going to move on to blockchain and like when is the government going to get serious about adopting blockchain, this is proof that the government has already been serious about adopting blockchain. You know, this university has been funded by the National Science Foundation, $10 million actually for this Allspice program. So this is proof that the government is serious about implementing and finding specific use cases for blockchain technology. So I'm pretty excited to dive into these use cases and and explore a little bit more. So I don't know which one of you guys wants to kind of take the lead here.
Yeah, I'll kick it off and then I'll hand it over to my colleague here, Ken. And I'll just add a little context to all this. For those that don't know, I'm one of the co-founders, Benjamin Diggles, Constellation Network. I always like to mention that for those that may have seen my face for the first time. And for those that want to know what I do, I focus on enterprise, federal, general partnerships. And another big thing is academia, right? I've been involved with universities in blockchain since 2018. I helped found this blockchain certificate program curriculum for Portland State University. It was the first of its kind in the business school. And that's where I really started to fall in love with students and realizing like, wow, I wish I was able to be introduced to the internet when I was, you know, going through college for the first time and have somebody in to help educate me on this stuff. So it felt like a really great pay it forward opportunity. And seeing how that really got involved in small business and sort of medium to large business in the Portland area, I then started to cross-pollinate some of that stuff into some of these other universities. Arizona State University, I'm a big shout out to Dr. Dragon and their Blockchain Research Institute. It's probably one of the best in the nation, and we've been a strategic partner with them for years. They're a foundational node operator on our network, which is really great. And again, working with the students is awesome, whether it's the direct research folks, the undergrads, the graduate students, and then the blockchain clubs. And so along in my life, sort of an answer to prayer comes Ken. I met Ken July of last year, and truly we hit it off immediately. Ken is based in Hawaii and has not only a rich background in enterprise, but also has a very rich background in federal and a lot of really great constituents and contacts in academia. And so I wouldn't have even known about some of these opportunities if it wasn't for Ken. And he's a big reason why we got introduced to Chaminade University. And in full transparency, this thing sort of started off as an experiment, right? Dr. Helen Turner, who is a really wonderful person and really cares about students, really cares about America. She really was the juggernaut, or I guess, you know, the catalyst for making this thing happen. And she offered up an opportunity for me to speak to the students and say, hey, do you want to tell them about what you do in blockchain? And I did. And after the class, they decided, well, what if we actually turn this into an internship program and started utilizing the 𝗚𝘗𝗲𝘀 and NSF opportunities to make this more official. And so I worked with her and Ken, and we built a curriculum that lasted, I think, roughly around 3 to 5 months, where we brought in guest speakers. We built out these cool opportunities for them to take, certifications and whatnot and learn different things. And that's when our minds really started to open up. And just this alone is the beginning of something that we want to really see be part of that American blockchain movement. The students are really the catalyst for the future. I know that sounds sort of cheesy, but it's very true. And I don't want to say it's unfortunate, but in certain capacities, a lot of these blockchain clubs have really only focused on cryptocurrency. It's always been around, okay, and they've almost kind of created these fiefdoms that live inside these universities that they are now handling wallets that have amounts of money that are ungodly amongst these students, and the universities may not really know much about it, right? So in that case, since it's so easy to mint tokens on Solana's networks, a lot of it's like Solana-focused types of things. But we decided to go a different route. We've been talking and we've coined that term, the datapreneur, a long time ago. And this is really a great expression of what we wanted to unlock when it came to creating these young datapreneurs. That was not just about the students, but really around the state of Hawaii. And so I'm going to pause for a second because I know I can just keep going about this story here, but I wanted to give a little bit of a backstory as we start to talk a little bit about what this new press release is about. But to your point, Dagnum, is that this is not like breaking to us because we've been working on it for so darn long. But we believe that this is the beginning of something really amazing. We're excited to talk about it. But I'm going to hand it over to Ken. And Ken, I would love for you to introduce yourself for those that may have not had a chance to hear about you or see you as one of our strategic advisors on our website. But I'd love for you to introduce yourself. And then as you talk about what this is, maybe talk a little bit about, since you do live in Hawaii, why Hawaii is such a great state for this sort of program and activity.
Yeah, thanks, Benjamin, and appreciate being on with everybody. So I think, out here in Hawaii, it's the epicenter of activities in the Indo-Pacific, which is one of our key priorities from a national security perspective. And I think that there's so many use cases where blockchain can be used to assist the general population, including disadvantaged communities. So a lot of these island nations, first and second island chains, they struggle with ways to basically connect with digital economies or the economy in general. So blockchain opens up a whole new future for these folks, especially around the datapreneur concept. And it's exciting to see what we can do with academia students and the younger generation, kind of what I like to refer to as the next generation of blockchain leaders and innovators, to start thinking about blockchain from a solution perspective, right? There's been negative stigma over the last couple of years related to the cryptocurrency moniker that's out there. And I think what's separating Constellation and this type of partnership with institutions like Chaminade University of Honolulu is the ability for us to start thinking outside the box on how do we use blockchain to improve our world. And so there's multiple ways to do that, and not just improve our world, but also improve economies for every individual, right? I think the ability to share data securely, to potentially monetize your data assets is a huge thing. And I think that we collectively need to think through how can blockchain be applied in different ways where new economies can be created. And I know at Constellation, we've got kind of three main thrust areas outside of kind of this datapreneur concept. Obviously, one being secure information sharing, but also kind of bringing commercial off-chain data on-chain. That's pretty exciting. That's what the Door traffic miner actually performs in its current state for Constellation Network. And it's the ability for us to basically verify different types of communication protocols or information from different types of sensor devices And Benjamin, you can talk a little bit about the weather sensor vision with one of the university partners. But there's also, the latest partnership with Forward Edge AI, where we're looking through how do we provide veracity and immutability around the types of data that large language models are consuming, which is an important thing. So trustworthy AI concept. So very exciting to kind of lead Constellation forward in new ways to engage different population segments and get them excited about the future of blockchain.
Love it. Go ahead, Dagan.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I think I've got this up here, right? So this tab, this was from the first cohort, and this was talking just specifically what Ken just mentioned about tying in like a use case similar to the door thing. And I believe in an interview you talked about these students developing, like using that principal framework and integrating like weather sensors. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about like this better weather.
Yeah. I mean, so this is an idea that I've had for a while. And, when Dr. Turner when we were working on the curriculum, one of the big deposits that we wanted to show to the NSF, since they funded this thing, was, what was one of the big outcomes? What did these students take away versus just learning, which I think is always very important, but was there something transactional? And at first we started thinking about, okay, writing a white paper, that's fine. I'm not saying that it's fine, it's great. But I also built a certification, test that they take that had to answer questions so they get certified, so make sure they're paying attention. But then I said, well, what if we actually turn this into a true product development strategy that's going to, expand multiple cohorts, right? And those that want to continue to contribute even after their, semester ends, or maybe they graduate, they still can. And it was really around this idea of a weather sensor. If you think about the door traffic miner, in my opinion, it's one of the best expressions in Web3 history. We're a vertically aligned company, all the way from the hardware, from the network, to the wallet, to the Explorer, to the cryptocurrency. I mean, all of it. And if we add the DEX that's coming in 2025, it really puts the cherry on top, right? I would say the one thing we do need is a tier 1 exchange to really bring it home. And we're working on that, because I think that's going to be awesome. So that said, if, I have on there, you'll see a slide that has the TEDx thing on it. I did an unofficial TEDx talk on there because I was asked to do a TED speech, and I was down selected number 13 out of 12. So I didn't get to do it, but I prepared the whole demonstration. So I decided to just do my talk, or at least a rendition of it, to the university. And the talk was all about abundance, right? This technology is going to make people more abundant. And that is, when Ken talked about some of these, folks that may be at a disadvantage in certain areas, I believe Web3 is really going to lift them up in a meaningful way if we can spread the wealth very meaningful. So especially we can partner with the state, universities, potentially banks in the area that want to get on board. And we have relationships with all of these folks, and it's been a discussion going on for a while. And if we took the door traffic miner, which we open source the metagraph, I'm not sure if people know that, but anybody that has a sensor of any sort can basically fork this thing and start to configure it against their sensor technology and bring rewards and crypto into the mix. And I think it's just absolutely awesome. So the vision was, all right, well, let's work on a project together. And what we zeroed in on was what I call better weather. And my thesis is, I know that the NSF has spent a lot of money on these like major weather stations. I think there was something like 9 or 10 of them in the Hawaii area, and it hasn't really fit the bill. It hasn't performed as they would like. And when you're really looking at large weather stations over that landmass, you almost have to fractionalize it in a more meaningful way, much like we've done with the door traffic miner. And so the idea is that if residents could have, much like the door traffic miner, 2 different types, you have one that is, maybe lower cost, just like our DTM Lite, that only measures temperature and moisture, they get a lower reward fee, right? With the idea that ideally it would pay itself off rather quickly. And then they're just seeing upside on receiving that cryptocurrency. And then you would have a bigger weather station that does things like barometer testing and all that sort of stuff, pressure, and they get bigger rewards, right? But what's awesome is that everybody sort of wins in this model. It generates net new income for maybe those that are disadvantaged, that now has a sensor and they're earning money by just producing weather. They also have an application showing them the most accurate weather at their residence possible because it's there right on the application. But if you think from a mesh network perspective and you have a plethora of these devices across the islands, you have the most real-time accurate weather data possible in history, right? And what's cool about that is that if you start adding in other features such as smoke detection, you can actually get to disaster response in a much more meaningful way. Even if it's a matter of minutes, that could make a huge difference, right? And I'm probably going over my skis here. The reason why I called it Better Weather is because I wanted to make it into a betting app so people could actually bet on the weather, and they could say, all right, what do I think the weather is going to be tomorrow? Can I stake my cryptocurrency that I received and bet against what the weather is actually going to be against the National Weather Service? They say it's going to be 50 degrees. Then let's say you're accurate. You don't win very much. Let's say it's going to be 50 degrees and you bet 60 degrees. You're probably going to win big. Of course, the university sort of poo-pooed that for obvious reasons, but it shows the capacity of what could happen with such a really cool technology. And the last thing I'll say, because I'd love to hear what Ken's opinions are on kind of the disadvantage and how we can bring more solutions to the Hawaiian people and be I would say, a flagship use case for other states and other countries, if you will, is really around abundance. That was what I wanted folks to really get excited about, was the Datapreneurship was a way to create sovereignty and ownership and freedom when people could take their data and make money off of it and get involved in programs which I think right now are largely outside of their capacity to get involved in because, maybe they're disadvantaged. So Ken, I'd love to know your thoughts on what I just shared.
Yeah, thanks, Benjamin. So, one of the things I've learned over my career, and I've run national initiatives with university partners, doing some pretty interesting innovation, using certain types of innovation approaches, is you have to come up with the right engagement strategies to get people involved. And I think this vision of outreach to build a national university ecosystem so that we can allow clubs as well as university students, maybe through a formal internship program, the opportunity to have kind of what I would refer to as frictionless ways for them to engage in the blockchain future. And where it can be something that's meaningful to their current daily experience. You don't have to go build on top of the infrastructure, build an app to be successful, but actually to experience blockchain from a solution perspective. And I think that's the real interesting value proposition that we can achieve through this early stage of kind of building out toward the university ecosystem. So a lot of these universities work through grants, work with different communities throughout the nation. And a lot of these communities are disadvantaged for a variety of different reasons. And the great equalizer, I think, is the ability for us to produce our own economies. And I think that the ways that Constellation is thinking through how people can be participatory with blockchain is revolutionary, to be honest with you. It goes well beyond just staking. It allows people to be expressive using blockchain, but also to really learn, right? The experiential learning aspect is so huge to really get people engaged in a way that they can actually see a part of the vision. And then the next step would be to create the vision of where blockchain can go. That's where I get really excited about, some of these university partnerships and community use cases, is that people get to create good for their own lives and also for the communities that they live in. And we're starting to see expressions like through the hackathon that Constellation had of how people are coming up with new ideas on how blockchain can be applied. And I think this underlying current of engaging these student population segments is going to be a huge step forward so that we can keep building upon something that that is really, barely scratching the surface of in terms of how we see blockchain is applied to different types of solution use cases. And I think that's the real win here for everybody that will be involved in this. And I think it's just an amazing thing that we're embarking on, and we can talk a little bit about the larger vision in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and getting into how this ties in, I think how I started talking about the government and how serious they are. Like, so here's the National Science Foundation's website, and here's some grants, and all of these grants here revolve around blockchain. So the government is serious about exploring applications using distributed ledger technology, because distributed ledger technology is way beyond just cryptocurrencies and tokens and stuff. And for those people that are just tuning in and watching, like, what's interesting about the National Science Foundation is they're kind of like a public DARPA, right? So everybody has probably heard of DARPA and all the research they do and all the cool tech that comes out of DARPA. And so, like, a next step, out of the top secret bunkers of DARPA is the National Science Foundation. And the National Science Foundation actually funds a lot of cool stuff that makes it out into the public, like this Allspice Alliance thing, right? So, like, the National Science Foundation funded this with $10 million. The other thing that the National Science Foundation funded was the National DigiFoundry. And so the National DigiFoundry is focused on exploring use cases with distributed ledger technology, doing all kinds of stuff here, like climate change and disaster response. I could see how these weather nodes could definitely be helpful and useful in something like this. Decentralized science, secure information sharing, the space working group, the financial product tokenization, refugee. So, like, each one of these, they're all exploring like different use cases, and it's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people really realize what's going on, right? Like, to use your term, Dagnum, they're sort of sleeping on it. It's like, and I get it. There's a lot of shiny objects right now. A new token comes out, it goes up $500 million in a market cap overnight. Nobody really cares about refugee, support. I hate to say it, like, it's sad, but we've always been focused on doing the right work and, in my opinion, some of the hard work. And I don't know if some people in the company may differ with me, but I feel like we're a technology first company, a crypto second, right? Like, our technology is the most important piece, and that's what's going to open up a lot of these different use cases. And, Ken and I have been putting our heads together for a while about how do we cross-pollinate with local businesses within the Hawaiian state that can get involved in a meaningful way, so that we can create almost like a trading system between a token that's like, yeah, if you earn this through this program, we'll take that, and now you can go to a movie, or you can, get free coffee, or whatever you want to use it for. And I know those are sort of simple expressions, but that's a starting point to getting people around the discipline and comfortability of using this new type of cryptocurrency that has been tied to Datapreneur, where you feel like you're earning it because you're participating in something that's tied to you as an individual. And that's always been what struck my heart in all of this. That's why I'm doing this. I don't think people really understand how much I love people, and I want everybody to win. And I think there is a disparate between the have and the have-nots. And I think that we have a chance in this revolution to sort of tighten that gap. And I think the universities and the students are going to be the ones that are going to be the elixir to really making it happen. And that's why we are saying we're America's trusted blockchain. We've been validated. We're working on things that people don't even really know we're working on, because we don't talk a whole lot about it until it's an appropriate time. But beyond federal, we're heavily involved in the public sector, and that involves EDU, right? And so I'm absolutely thrilled about this. It's going to take time, like all things, because the public sector doesn't move very quickly. but it's, consistency will win the race. And that's why we've been chipping away at this for such a while. And, having Ken on our team to really help push this in a meaningful way, because he does hold a lot of these relationships, and these people aren't easy to get to. And they've just sort of fallen in love with some of the stuff we're doing. But I think it's extremely imperative to say that I do not believe, and I've said this many times, that there's one blockchain to rule them all. And that's a big reason why we believe that this belongs within the purview of the National DigiFoundry. And, it's not one of those things that's been, inked on paper yet. We're just still talking about how this will transition into the National DigiFoundry, but we've gotten the signals that this is something that they want to do. Because that's a hub that not only brings in the federal government, but it's a cross section between federal and industry with Web3 in the middle. And that's why I think that these universities will have a chance to really gestate in a meaningful way with a great cast of characters of different types of infrastructures, different types of use cases, as you talked about through those work groups. So we don't want this to feel like this is a myopic Constellation thing. We just happen to be the ones that are really helping push this thing into the limelight. And so, Ken, I can pass it over to you or hear what your thoughts are.
I think two important things were brought up, both by you and Dagna. Benjamin brought up the point about, a new meme coin is released and you start to see evaluation on top of that. I think what the initiative that we're talking about, the broader university and younger population engagement strategy, is all linked together with kind of the solution orientation that Constellation has as a company. Because one of the things that we've talked about internally is, wouldn't it be great if we could create value for the Constellation token by actually creating technology solutions that are applicable to our daily life, right? So the more that we are starting to think about applying blockchain into real technology use cases, where blockchain is the +1 enabler to enhance capabilities that are already deployed or be a huge part of future capabilities. Now we're creating value for blockchain, right? And since the token is tied to the success of the company, meaning if we're creating value, for me, I'd like to be a part of something where whether the token goes up or down, it's tied to value of what we're actually producing as a corporate entity versus just against straight sentiment. And I think that's a really important thing. And I think unlocking these types of relationships with university partners, it allows them to be successful because they can go after different types of grants as institutions. The people who might be in clubs or students, they can find ways to interact, we hope, through the DigiFoundry, be a part of working groups, have public-private partnership interactions that are so important when you're thinking about building a career, making those relationships, putting your concepts into working white papers in some of those categories that were mentioned. And so one of our hopes is to use the DigiFoundry as one way, kind of an on-ramp, if you think about it, to bring a national ecosystem to life around university students. It's an easy way to onboard them, to get their first wallet, to understand what that means, have some meaningful interactions while you're inside that ecosystem, and then start to learn about how you can start working toward your own vision for blockchain or using Constellation's infrastructure to do unique things with it. And since Constellation is already the underlying architecture for the National DigiFoundry, it's a wonderful fit to actually think about having that be one of the key levers that we can utilize to get everybody engaged quickly, seamlessly, and in a way where they can start to see some immediate value in terms of what you can do next. And so, that's why, Dagnum, I think that this is a really important thing for the company to do and to be a part of, because, at the end of the day, we need to help people learn about how blockchain can be applied, because the use cases are limitless, and it extends well beyond just a measure of potential currency value. And I think, making this step in being a part of that education process for people is going to be one of the big legacies that Constellation can leave behind.
Yeah, and Hawaii is going pretty extensively into this, but I mean, outside of the 𝘂𝗵𝗶𝘀 stuff, like I don't know. So I had this pulled up about the Sun global broadband, and I don't remember who. I don't know if it was 𝘂𝗽𝗀 or somebody else that was quoted, about this idea of like an aloha token, and then that goes back to like Benjamin's point about earning things, right? So like with this better weather, like people that set up these weather sensors all over could, maybe earn these tokens, and then these tokens can then in turn be used at local Hawaiian businesses.
Yeah, I think, so Ed runs a local business in Hawaii, and he's been very proactive about how can you use blockchain in smart city use cases that he's working with different community partners in Hawaii about. And that's just critically important. I mean, there's so many things you can do in communities like Hawaii or other places in the country or in other countries where you can start to truly move out on forward thinking around creating your own ways of expressing value. And Benjamin brought up, one of the interesting things that can be done, which is basically, using a token strategy for different types of discounts, right? For different stores or different participating businesses where the token can be exchanged for that value. And it's, there's indigenous ecosystem currencies you could try and create, that are just kind of a closed currency for different use cases. It's really exciting. I mean, to get people really educated about where blockchain can go and all the use cases that there are for it. It's one of the exciting things that we talk about quite a bit in our calls at Constellation. Obviously, we need to be focused on just a few key areas initially, but we want to unlock the potential of blockchain for everyone.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So I'm looking at this the Allspice thing, and it looks like there's multiple universities outside of Chaminade that are a part of this. Am I reading this map correctly, or is this something totally unrelated?
No, a lot of this work done through these NSF grants are benefiting different communities, and there are different university partners involved. And so, it's great to have Constellation as an industry enabler for this type of work, and that industry interaction, or what we like to call public-private partnerships, are so important. We need different ways to win together as organizations who have common and shared values and vision. And so very exciting news to kind of be at the front of this and to help build this into something much bigger.
Yeah, I just want to say, because I think we've pretty much gotten through most of everything. This is the beginning of, I would say, a pretty exciting 2025 in the university regard, as well as the National DigiFoundry. As those that are watching, that are following Constellation, this is just one of many things we've got going on. But everything kind of starts to come together, right? This AI movement, the new policies that are going to start coming out of the federal government around cryptocurrency and blockchain. We want to be at the forefront to be one of the good actors that has been on the right side of history, showing like, hey, we've been in the trenches for well over half a decade with the federal and public sector, and we've been really giving back as much as we possibly can because we do believe in the students. And now it's kind of fun to see it kind of coming out, and that's really what this call is about here, is to just let people know like, hey, this is real. But off of what Ken just said, I think this is a good way to sort of wind this call down. Is I want to do another call to arms to anybody that's watching this. If you are connected to a university, do you work for a university? Do you know anyone that you think would benefit from this or getting involved in it? That might think this is a good part for their university. I can't think of one university that wouldn't benefit from this, but there's a lot of different types of universities out there. So if you can hit me up on Telegram, you can reach out to Dagnum. We have a form that we can send around for universities to fill out if they're interested. We're going to start collecting their name and onboarding them, and really programmatically lighting this thing up so that it's got a national footprint. So I want to make sure that folks know that this isn't just about Chaminade University. This is a much bigger nationwide vision that we have, but we had to start somewhere, and we're really proud of where we started. I think it's one of the best places to start. Do you have anything else you want to say on that topic, Ken, before we conclude?
No, well said. And it's a pleasure to be here with everybody. Dagnum, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about the future. The things that Constellation is putting forward are some of the most innovative types of thinking that we have, I think, in this still nascent industry, right, of using blockchain for very special solutioning.
Sweet. Dagnum, take us home, buddy.
All right. Well, I mean, you heard it. 2025 is, already going to be set out to be a huge moment in blockchain. We have the first pro crypto administration. We have a pro crypto Congress. So I think come January 20th, all this momentum that we've seen materialize so far. I mean, like this is happening right now. This Chaminade University thing, this is happening right now. And so I think we're going to see levels of adoption that are even greater than what we're already currently in come January 20th. And, it's just exciting that Constellation is actually at the forefront of a lot of this stuff and is really spearheading a lot of this stuff. But 2025, look out. If you want to get part of the university system, just reach out to Benjamin or myself, and it's going to be good. I mean, we got a lot of stuff cooking that I'm pretty excited about.
Heck yeah. Well, I love both of you, and I love everybody listening because I'm a lover, and I really appreciate everything that's going on. So, Ken, thanks for all your work, and Dagnum, per usual, thanks for being a slayer, buddy. I appreciate you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. All right, take it easy, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time. We'll end